but definitely digital identity has a much broader role. We are working in different areas, different verticals, where we are seeing a strong need for digital identity. But today, the focus is going to be how digital identity can enable strong KYC in the digital age. Um, so why digital identity? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk a little bit about the work that we are doing at Mastercard around digital identity. Just to give a quick overview of our product, what we are trying to build, and then we'll get into how digital identity can help from a KYC perspective. So just overall, digital identity, it's a huge opportunity globally and has a huge impact across every aspect of our lives. So, some of the numbers that I have over here, a fully functional, globally interoperable identity ecosystem. It has a strong impact on GDPs of the countries. And a study from McKinsey, it reports that a GDP could increase by up to 30%, 13% by 2030 in various countries.
Sorry to interrupt. I can just see an extra screen that seems to be sitting on top of your presentation here at the minute. I think a couple of people are seeing it as well.
Right.
It's something about choosing a theme for the presentation. That's your end or our end at the minute.
Give me a second.
Hi, Prashant. Do you want me to play it from my side?
Just give me one more second. Is it any better now or no?
No, it's happened again.
Okay. Yeah, Priyanka, if you don't mind, maybe
Sure.
sharing it from your side.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. The joys of technology. Yeah, thank you. If you can go to the next slide, please. Great, thank you. So we talked about some of the numbers. Why is digital identity important? So actually, give me one more second. I'm just going to make it full screen. Okay, great. So it's not just the right thing to do from a business perspective. It's the right thing to do from a social perspective as well. So more than 1 billion people, they do lack a legally recognized form of ID. And what's happening is it's not just having an impact on the financial ecosystem, it actually prevents them having access to many things, including healthcare, including education, and many other services which are important from a day-to-day perspective. So it is a huge opportunity. And then what it can also do from a KYC perspective, which is the primary topic of our discussion today, it can actually reduce the onboarding cost by 90%. And I'll talk about some of the work that we are doing, especially around reusable identity, to showcase how a reusable identity can help with a strong KYC. Next slide, please. So, and again, I really don't think that I need to explain why is digital identity important and what are some of the things that are happening. So more than 5 billion people are actually connected using mobile devices, and this number continues to grow. The number of IoT devices, I'm pretty sure all of us has many IoT devices. I can tell you that in my home, I have more than 30 devices which are connected to the internet. I was really surprised, everything from the doorbell to these Alexa devices to my TV to the refrigerator, everything is connected. And as more and more devices are connected, people continue to use those to make transactions. It is important that those transactions remain safe, they remain secure, and at the same time, making sure that the privacy of the individuals are managed as well. A lot of regulations, we talked about regulations in some of our previous discussions, making sure that as we continue to work on creating these digital identity ecosystems, these are following proper regulations. Whether it's GDPR, CCPA, we are seeing a lot of regulations when it comes to data privacy. So we need to continue to make sure that we continue to follow those trends as well. User experience. While we continue to do these things, we cannot be at a point we are not providing user experience. I think this has become like a standard need for the individual as they continue to access any of these services, whether it's remote, whether it's physical. A streamlined user experience is very critical as well. So there are many reasons why we feel that there is a strong need to create a strong digital identity ecosystem, which is going to help individuals as they interact with different services for different needs. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, thank you. So ID. So ID is our brand. So this is the brand for MasterCard. So how you see our logo for the cards. For digital identity, our brand is ID. And again, payment is one of the aspects, but digital identity is much broader than payment transactions. So that's why we're not using our MasterCard logos. ID is the brand for digital identity enablement or digital identity ecosystem. So what does ID provides? It reduces friction. So user experience, I just talked about that. It's very critical as user interacts with different services, whether it's access to education, access to healthcare. We need to make sure that these interactions are seamless, and it also injects trust in the ecosystem as well. It does provide new opportunities. Various use cases can be enabled as a part of digital identity-based interaction. It helps user complete everyday tasks. So anything that you can think of, I'm buying something online, or I'm signing up for a new account, or I'm opening up a new free frequent flyer account. So anything that requires identity verification or trust, all those use cases are possible by digital identity. And then it helps users very quickly verify. I'm pretty sure we all have gone through the use cases where you are doing some interaction in a remote environment where we have to prove who we are. Just providing user ID, password, or logging via Facebook or logging via Google, it's not really identity verification. Anybody can create those accounts and then log in. That's not really a strong identity verification. So anything that requires the user to do identity proofing or identity verification, digital identity or ID can be utilized for that. And then lastly, what's very critical is that it gives control to the user. User controls the data. All the data is stored on user's device, and no data is shared without user's consent. So some of these are some of our core principles of digital identity. And while we want to make sure that it provides a very safe, secure, and streamlined experience, it does follow our principles of data privacy, data security, and consent. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is very critical. So when we set out to design our model, we recognize that there's no way that MasterCard alone can create an ecosystem like this. It is very important for us to bring the right partners into the ecosystem, because if we have to create a globally reusable digital identity, we are going to require partners who are strong in different aspects of identity. So if user needs or creating an ecosystem where trust is very critical, it's very important for us to make sure that every piece of identity data is verified by the trusted sources. So when a user shares their data with a relying party, so I want to prove to somebody I'm above age of over 21, that relying party needs to trust that data. And for them to be able to trust the data, we need to make sure that that identity data has been verified against the trusted sources. So that's where this whole concept of identity verification providers, the bottom right, that comes into picture. So these can be organizations like your government entities to verify your driver's license or to verify your passport. Or if there is a use case for your employment verification, then the employers play a critical role. Or if it's income verification or your health verification, then your hospitals or healthcare providers will play those roles. So it's important for us to bring this network of identity verification providers to be able to strongly verify identity of the individuals and establish trust in the ecosystem. For the user to be able to manage this identity data, they need certain tools. They need certain interfaces to be able to share the data. And that's where the trust providers comes in. So these are essentially the entities that enables user to create their digital identity. But these entities must have already have some trust established with the users. So in most of the markets, we are looking at partners like banks. Users trust them with their money. They interact with them pretty often. Most of us have mobile banking applications on the phone. So in most of the markets, we are expecting banks to play the role. Your mobile OEMs can play the role. In certain markets, governments can play this role as well. But trust providers are the one that enables user to create their digital identity and manage their digital identity. And then the most important one are the line parties. So these are the ones who wants to verify a user identity. So this can be an Uber who wants to verify an individual when they're signing up to become a driver, or Airbnb who wants to verify a user when they're signing up to become a guest or a host, or a retailer who wants to verify that I'm above age of 21 when I'm buying a bottle of wine. So this is the ecosystem that we want to create. But the most important part is there's no way this is something that MasterCard can do alone. We need partners to be able to create a strong ecosystem. But on top of this, to create this ecosystem, you can create these technology rails. But what's one of the most important thing is governance. Without governance, if there's no trust, if there's no entity who can play a role of creating this market, somebody who needs to define the economics, somebody who needs to define the rules, the liability, the surface level agreement. So that is very critical, because otherwise it becomes a technology implementation and it's not going to scale. So that's the role that MasterCard wants to play, or the MasterCard is playing. And given our experience in the payment ecosystem, we feel that we have a lot of experience, a lot of strong capability to be able to drive an ecosystem like this. Next slide, please. So now let's talk about KYC. So customer onboarding around the globe, it's in the midst of a huge shift. As consumers and institutions, they move towards digital flows. And we talked at length about in the previous discussions, all the keynotes, they talked about this as well. So every party that's involved in the KYC process, they want to make sure that they can implement this at scale, and something that is interoperable at a global level as well. And while there are regulatory requirements, there is a key requirement to make sure that they should be able to do at a lower cost. User experience is very critical as well, because this is the first time essentially a user is interacting with your service. I want to open up a new bank account. That's the first time that I'm interacting with you. So it is very critical that while you are providing a seamless way, a safe way to be able to onboard the user experience becomes very critical as well. And given that this is the first time that a user is interacting with you, this becomes a very critical channel from an acquisition perspective, from a retention perspective as well. And if you do not do a good job in terms of KYC when the user is first onboarded, this can lead up to a lot of fraud in the ecosystem as well. So that onboarding during or KYC during onboarding is very, very critical for all the reasons that I've mentioned over here. Next slide, please. So just some numbers around the account opening fraud. And again, I'm sure we've seen this many times. And this is not just impacting banks. This is impacting every kind of industry, whether it's car loans, whether it's your mortgage, whether it's new bank account opening. They all have seen huge account opening fraud, and it's impacting all kind of industries. And we all know everything that happened with the credit bureaus, the data that got stolen, and this number is only getting compounded. So some of these numbers, they're very, very staggering numbers. So 3.4 billion. So for US, and this is just US actually. So for US lenders to not being able to properly identify the users, they had a loss of $3.4 billion. Just imagine if we can reduce or fully eliminate this, how much of an impact this can actually have. The second one, which is around new account opening. This is, we're not saying this is for every bank. This is for a bank. What we've noticed is that one bank, 70% of all new users or new accounts that they were opening, they were all fake accounts. Imagine 70% of your user base is just fake account. And this has a huge impact into the downstream system as well. Not just for you, but where the market is going with open banking, somebody who's relying on those open banking capabilities, that has an impact as well. So account opening KYC is very, very critical, not just for your own ecosystem, but for the broader financial ecosystem as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so this just talks about some of the things that we can do and or we should do when a user is creating their account. So to verify an individual, and we cannot just rely on some static data. There are many things that can be done to be able to make sure that the individual is who they say they are. So some of the examples that we've seen over here, and this is the work that we are doing from a digital identity perspective, is creating this ecosystem of identity verification providers to be able to strongly identify the individual and create that strong reusable identity. So everything from phone intelligence, I think in US adults, more than 97% of US adults, they do have a phone. So taking advantage of the phone intelligence to be able to verify the user, this is becoming very, very mainstream. How the user is behaving with their phones. So behavioral biometrics. So MasterCard acquired a company called New Data a few years back, and they play a critical role in this. There are various other companies as well, but focusing on behavioral biometric data, making sure that the device that the user is interacting with is not flagged as in some kind of watch list. Identity document. Most of the people, they have driver's license or passport. Binding the user or the user face with those identity documents is critical. And then everything else that the user does. So essentially what we are saying is it's very critical to take advantage of these capabilities and not just rely on static data or just verification using one source during account opening, because it has a huge impact on the downstream systems as well. Next slide, please. So MasterCard, what we are trying to do. Again, if you look at some of these numbers, MasterCard is a global company. We have millions of cards, billions of transactions per year. And I just talked about new data. So they've created a consortium to be able to support behavioral biometric. They have the consortium of watch lists to make sure that if a user is doing something bad from one device and we catch that, then the user is not able to do that for another application as well. So creating that consortium and sharing that data is very critical to be able to eliminate fraud as well. And then just through our connection with more than 9,000 banks, and this is all of this makes MasterCard a critical partner in terms of eliminating or supporting KYC and removing fraud during account creation. But we cannot do this by ourselves. If you'll see, we are working very closely with a lot of partners, whether it's to get phone intelligence. We are working with governments to be able to verify users' driver's license, passports, sanction screening. It's not just important for identity, it's needed from a regulatory purpose as well. How the user behaves with their devices, their social activity, their financial activity. There are so many things that we can take a look at to be able to make sure that the user who is interacting or who's opening up an account is indeed who they say they are. And what we want to do as a part of this, so when a user is going through their identity verification, what our goal is to also create a reusable identity. You really don't want to be in a situation where, today you open up an account, you provide all the details. A month down the line, you're opening up another account or applying for a loan. You are going through the same process as well. 3 months down the line, again, similar activity, you are going through the same thing again. Not just it's not cost effective, it is also provides very, very bad user experience. So the goal for MasterCard is the system model that I showed. The goal is that as the user is going through this identity verification process, it also results in a reusable digital identity, so that I'm not doing the same thing over and over again. So reusable digital identity is what we want to focus on, while making sure that it adheres with our core principles. We do not want to create a honeypot of data. We don't want to have 7 billion people's identity data sitting in a centralized database. We want to make sure that user is always in the ownership of that data. No data is shared with user consent. Any data that somebody is requesting for user sees exactly the data that they need. Security is very critical. We are focusing a huge amount of effort on biometric, so that only the individual who's created their identity is the one who's able to share that. So this is the goal. We want to work with all of you to make sure that we can create a strong and secure ecosystem. Next slide. Yeah, this just talks about, I think I've talked about this a little bit as well. So this is the capability where we want to take advantage of the behavioral biometric of the user. So we should not just be focusing on the static data. We should take a look at and see how the user is behaving. We should be able to make sure that it's not a bot who's interacting with your services. We need to make sure that this device has not been on the watch list. So taking advantage of the work that we can provide through our new detect capabilities or new data is very critical as a part of new account opening. Next slide. Phone intelligence, and this is the service that we currently have available. This essentially enables user to very, very quickly, just by verifying the ownership of a mobile number and providing a challenge question, which in US we use last four of social security number. So we can just utilize that data, and all of this is based upon the trust score. So your mobile number is associated with the trust score based upon all the other activities. Has there been a SIM swap? How long have you had this account? What are, are there different sources where we have the same data? So your phone number is tied with a trust score and is a strong key for your identity verification. So just by verifying the ownership of the mobile number and verifying the social security number, we are able to verify identity. And just using this capability, we are able to utilize this for many, many sectors, applying for a health insurance, applying for a card, applying for a bank account. So a very simple and very streamlined way for account opening. And it also provides a very strong identity verification as well. Next slide. Doc verification. I think this is very common. I've not seen this in US market very often, but very common outside US. So a lot of people, they do have driver's license, they do have passport. So in case of a rescue transaction, so the use cases that I just talked about, we can always ask the user to step up. We can remotely verify a user's document. The cameras and these smartphones are very, very capable to be able to distinguish between a fake document versus a real document. Was the document spoofed? Was the document tampered? We utilize liveness check to make sure it's a real individual who is interacting with your service. We make sure that we can bind the photo, so user selfie, with the photo from the photo ID. So, and again, very simple, very streamlined process. Takes, I would say, less than 30 seconds to be able to strongly verify a user, and then at the same time, bind the user with the device as well. So again, not needed in every use case, but as a step up, we can always utilize document authentication for some high assurance identity transactions. Next slide. This is open banking. Again, if I have already authenticated or I've already created a bank account, I've gone through the KYC process, there's no reason why I cannot utilize open banking to be able to prove my identity as well. So these are just more and more signals. And again, I'm just showing some examples. You really don't have to go through all these steps to be able to strongly verify identity of the individuals. All of these are options. You can only rely on phone intelligence. You can only rely on doc verification, or you can use open banking as well. This is something which is becoming very common. Europe market, Australia, they just launched this. A lot of activity happening in Asia, in Latin America market. So a consumer permissioned open banking verification. This can provide strong signals for identity assurance and can be utilized for various things where we have to prove our identity. Next slide. So this just shows where we want to go. So if as a part of that identity verification capability, a user has created their usable identity, then in that case, the next time the user is interacting with the system, and this is an example of, this can be bank account, this can be a card account, this can be anything, this can be a very, very high assurance transaction. If a user has created their high assurance reusable identity, then opening up a new bank account can be as simple as clicking a button, authenticating, providing the consent to share the data, and getting access to the service. So this is where we want to go. All the things that I just talked about, mobile verification, everything, those are components. But the idea is we want to create a reusable identity of the user, which can help them seamlessly and securely access any of these services. Next slide. I think I've talked about this in my previous slides, but again, through ID, every organization doesn't have to be banks. Every organization can provide very streamlined user experience and reduce fraud at the same time as well, and making sure that they are following KYC regulations. So a lot of use, safe, secure, reducing theft of risk of identity theft, reducing risk of breaches, and at the same time enabling users to be able to get access to services very seamlessly and very securely. On top of this, this also provides reduction of cost. So if a user has already created their reusable identity and they don't have to go through the same identity verification over and over, not just this provides very safe and simple way to access your services, also reduces the cost of data maintenance as well as onboarding.